It's almost that time again for annual town meeting, and if you have some questions about what to expect, don't worry, we got you covered. And today we're sitting down with our town administrator for a little insight into the process. Joining me for the second time on the Your Yarmouth podcast, our town administrator, Bob Whritenour. Nice to have you here.
Well, it's nice to be here. Thank you very much, especially this time of year as spring is approaching, getting a little warmer. The days are getting longer. We know it's town meeting time, and that's a great time to get information out and try to get folks ready for the local government options that are coming up for them.
So let's get right into it. For people who may not know, what is town meeting? How does it work?
Well, first of all, we have to all know that town meeting is one of the most important parts of our whole local government process. And it's really easy to look at it similar to a state government, our federal government. They were all set up the same with different divisions of power and branches. You have an executive branch, you have a legislative branch, and what is very important to know in local government, the town meeting is our legislative branch. People think a lot of times in terms of just having the select board and a town administrator running everything, but that is only one section of the government. Can you imagine if we had just a president and no Congress?
Right.
So town meeting is our legislative body. And what's great, in our system, every single voter is a member of that legislative body. So we really depend on the town meeting. It's one of the most important checks and balances that we have in our government, and not any major action can be taken without town meeting approval. So it's very important to participate and follow all of those town meetings.
So what would you say to someone who's never been to town meeting before? What can they expect?
Well, first of all, I would tell them, don't be intimidated. Come on out. Come to town meeting. It's your right as a voter. And once you enter the door, the first thing is, please, don't be thrown off by all of the formality. It really is a very simple process. You'll find it seems to be overly legally organized with, you have this warrant, which sounds like a warrant, for your arrest. And then all of the items are identified as articles, as if you're passing the Constitution. But simply, it's a way to organize each individual item that requires action by town meeting is completely separated from all of the other discussions. So you don't get all of the issues conflated into one thing. And so they have separate articles, and each discussion comes under an article, and folks are allowed to speak their mind. They're allowed to...
So they can.
Everyone can talk.
Yep.
You just have to be recognized first, and they'll never move on unless people have had a chance to discuss the issues, to ask questions. It's a great time to get information. And there really is, all of the staff is there, all of the department heads. So any questions on any of the items in the budget, it's a good time to bring up those issues. And again, just remember, it's really a very simple process with you and your neighbors, and it's not meant to be, overly officious or complicated. We try to simplify it the most we can.
And every vote really does count, because they actually raise their hand and vote on articles, right?
Think about it. And each one of those articles impacts the local government. So you cannot have a budget. You can't have education. You can't have a police department. You can't fix the roads. None of that without town meeting action and all of the local bylaws. It's real interesting. We've had a lot of discussion over the past couple of years on certain bylaws. Well, why do we have this bylaw? That bylaw is unfair. Well, the thing that's interesting, all of those bylaws are passed by
Yeah,
your
they were voted
friends
on.
and neighbors, and they all can be changed
Yeah.
as well. So what it takes is people participating in town meeting, participating in local government. And just this past year, we made some pretty significant changes in the local bylaws to accommodate, our current needs. These are bylaws that may be on the books for 50 years,
Yeah.
but times change, and you need to stay on top of those. Again, without the town meeting votes, you can't do any of it.
So I know that there's many articles on this year's warrant. Is there any one of them that you're excited about or you want people to really know about?
Yeah, it's, at my stage, it's hard to get as excited as I was when I was just starting in the business. But I will tell you that this is a particularly important annual town meeting. Now,
Big year.
first of
Yeah.
all, the fall town meeting may be a bit smaller, but we're heading into April, and so that's the annual town meeting. And really, the key item that voters do at the annual town meeting is establish the budgets and the spending for the coming year. Now,
Yep.
this is a very unique year that the town is heading into, and the issues that voters will address are extremely important. And, we have a situation that in order to have the level services that we have in the town, we've had a situation over the past year, the state aid to education has decreased lower than it has been in recent years. And we've also had in our Cape Cod Regional Technical High School a spike of over 20% in the enrollment.
Wow.
And both of these items create additional costs
Of
in
course.
the budget
Yeah.
that impact we have a law in Massachusetts which limits our property tax levy to just 2.5%. And
Okay.
we try to get all of our budgets in under the 2.5%, but in these modern times with costs rising, labor costs rising, if you throw a couple of curveballs at the town like reduced state aid or spikes in enrollment,
Yep.
it creates a situation
Yep.
that we need to look to the voters for some support for potentially going above the 2.5% that's normally required. And this is a presentation that's going to be made at town meeting. And what's interesting is that a move like that, and we've had, we try to keep them as small as possible. In recent years, we've had a number of these overrides, and voters know by now it has to go not only to town meeting, but if approved at town meeting, then it goes over to the ballot. So there'll be a ballot question for two particular overrides, one for the Dennis Yarmouth Regional High School or regional school system, all the grades there, and that's going to be 1.4 million. And there's an additional override for the Cape Cod Regional Tech to handle that spike in enrollment, and that is approximately 680,000. So those are issues that are going to be discussed at the town meeting, and without that voter support, the educational program in our community, is really going to be harmed. They do a great job. I know at the schools it's probably the most important service that we offer. And so we're hoping that folks come out and support the school department, and then we're able to put that budget together and keep those services intact for our local community.
You mentioned the warrant, you mentioned town meeting and then the ballot. I mean, the town meeting and then the ballot. Can you explain the difference? Like, can you explain why if you come to town meeting and you say yes on something, why it has to still go on the ballot?
Sure. And first of all, folks should know, obviously, they're a little less than a month apart. So we have town meeting coming up. That's going to be April 28th. And, of course, that's at the new middle school up on Station Avenue. And the election doesn't occur to, I believe it's May 19th. And so we have those, they're spaced almost a month apart. And the key item is the legislation that establishes that Proposition 2.5 has detailed requirements that if you seek to have a property tax levy that goes anything above that 2.5% cap, it needs to be approved at a town meeting but it also needs
Okay.
to be approved on the ballot.
That makes
just
sense.
to make sure the town
Yep.
is sure and that everyone knows it's happening. Because sometimes, not everyone obviously goes to town meeting,
Right.
but everyone does have a chance to participate in the elections. And so, we're happy that it comes up on both. So folks have a chance, 2 bites at the apple for those.
Are there any long-term projects or initiatives that residents should know about?
Absolutely. Once we get the budget taken care of at this town meeting, we move into some of the capital. And in our community, we've done a tremendous amount of capital planning, and we have laid out over the next several years a few projects that are very important to the town to move forward with. And on this town meeting that we have in April, we're very excited to have a new library facility set for a vote. And I think it's a fabulous opportunity for our community. We've been very fortunate that we've participated in a state grant program where the Commonwealth of Massachusetts will be giving us about $13.5 million toward a town library, which means the overall town library that's big enough to offer the programs for, let's face it, we have a community of 25,000 people here year-round. Of course, swells way up in the summer, but that's not a small town anymore. And at this point, both of our satellite libraries, West Yarmouth and South Yarmouth, are much too small to offer the programs we need. The children's programs are stuffed in a basement. We don't have the room for enough books and periodicals. So we're getting the benefit in our community of a library. You'll see the cost, I believe it's Article 15, is approximately $35 million for a new library that can service the whole community. And with the state paying $13.5 million and also fundraising of over $2.5 million that is projected for this project. I know they're working on that now. That means the cost to the town will be less than $20 million.
Yep.
So for a project to last us the next 100 years, our first townwide library that we can use as a community center to sort of link our whole town together. We figured it out. It's probably going to cost folks maybe $10 a month on their tax bill. And it's a great opportunity. This program will probably not be funded under the state for another 5 or 10 years, the next chance we get. And library project is a project this community's worked on for at least 20 years now. It's been a long-standing need. And we really need to get it approved and move forward before we're able to address some of our other building needs. But it's a real opportunity for the town to leverage all of that state money and finally have a library that we can be proud of as a community. So that's something that we hope folks come out for and to vote for that library and look for it. Also, interestingly, the same on this override for any of the major building projects that will happen in town through all of our capital programming. As we're a community that we're up against our levy limit by the state law, any additional debt that we take on has to be accompanied by what's known as a debt exclusion.
Okay.
So if the funds are appropriated at the annual town meeting to build a new library, it doesn't stop there. We also take that to the ballot, and there will be a ballot question. It's different than the override question in that it asks, do you as a taxpayer approve exempting just the amounts that are required to pay the bond for the library from Proposition 2.5? And what that does, it's not a permanent override, it's a temporary override just for the bond payments. And the bond payments, it's a 20-year program. It starts high and it declines every year. But when the library is paid for, the exclusion disappears and the taxes go back down to where they were before. So that's how we accomplish these major building projects. Any major building we build, that's a separate question, and we it has to go out to bonds, and those bonds are paid back over 20 years, and we ask folks to exempt that, make that above the Prop 2.5. That way, it doesn't compete with our primary services.
Okay.
Doesn't compete with education
Yep.
or public safety.
Yep, makes sense.
And that's a smart way to do the building projects. And so we hope folks also look for that question on your ballot, and we hope that passes as well.
What is your message to the town about getting out for town meeting? If you could tell them one thing.
Please come.
Yeah.
We'd like to have a new record for town meeting. So far, the largest town meeting attendance that I've seen was, when we got that great wastewater project off the ground to save the environment in our community for our next generation. We had almost 1,000 people. And normally we, get 500 or so for town meeting, but I'd like to get it back up to 1,000 and have people come out. You're supporting the children of the community.
Yeah.
You're supporting
It's for them.
the library,
Yeah.
which also has many children's programs, but great programs for adults, community meeting space, a place for folks to gather and be a community. And we know there's not enough of that these days. Places where we can have educational programs that draw adults just to talk to one another.
Yeah.
And we're missing that. You shouldn't have to go to a bar to talk to other adults.
Right.
It's about creating opportunities.
Show up to things that matter.
And for people to get together with their neighbors
Yep.
and just share their experiences, even talk about local affairs in town meetings.
Well, hopefully we got people curious about the warrant and the articles and what's to be expected. Where can they find this warrant so they can look it over and be prepared before they come to town meeting?
Well, the first thing is you have to check the town's website. We're really doing a great job now. Every piece of information that's important to your local government, to understanding all of the issues, we have posted on our town meeting warrant, and that's on our town meeting website, yarmouth.ma.us. You'll see the town meeting warrant prominently posted. There's a little banner. You can just click on it and go right there. And you don't have to print it out. When you get to town meeting,
They'll give it to
we're going
you.
to have copies of it that are printed out. But it's always great. Read the material.
Get a
and
head start.
Get a head start on also the library itself has a great website page that's directly on that town. Just go to the town website, hit the library. There's so much information on all the programming that is needed at that library,
For the
where
project,
our deficiencies are, why we need that project, why we're here, what we've been doing the past 20 years on that. And I think if folks get oriented to a lot of that material, they'll really understand that this is a project that's been a long time in coming, and it's one that would be great for our town.
Well, thank you so much, Bob, for joining us here today for the second time on the Your Yarmouth podcast. I know you did a great job breaking down town meeting and really explaining it, and I really appreciate you taking the time out for us today.
Well, thank you very much, and any folks also, don't hesitate. Call up or email your town administrator. I get back to everyone.
Yes, you do.
With a coherent response most times as well. So thank you very much, Lori, and it's great to be here.
Thank you so much. And just to recap, if you have any questions about the warrant, you can head to our website. It's posted there. And hopefully we'll see you at town meeting, which is April 28th, 6 p.m., DY Intermediate School on Station Avenue. And as always, thank you for listening. And don't forget to follow us on all of our social media platforms, our website, our YouTube channel, and you can find us anywhere you get your podcast. Thanks again, and we'll see you on the 28th.